We think we've identified the longest road in London. By our definition, that's a road that starts in London and ends in London. In our definition, we're not allowing this road to cross into other counties. For instance, the Western Avenue continues into Buckinghamshire. And you could make a case for the North Circular Road and the South Circular Road. But since they're really one road and continue in a circle, that doesn't count. So in summary, the road has to start and end in Greater London, but it doesn't have to have a single name. It can have multiple names en route, but must continue along the same line. And obviously we're prepared to discuss this in the comments. The road we've identified starts in Trafalgar Square, the centre of London. There are 6 main roads leading off Trafalgar Square, so which one is it? Is it Pall Mall? Well, that really fizzles out in St James. What about the Mall? That goes to Buckingham Palace and, well, really no further. Maybe it's Whitehall. That goes down to Parliament Square and then stops. Northumberland Avenue? Just down to the Thames. Not a contender. What about the Strand? Well, that goes on to Fleet Street but really fizzles out in the city. Maybe it's this one going north.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Let's start this tour with a walk up Charing Cross Road.
24 to Hampstead Heath.
Oh, you pest. Okay, a bus ride up Charing Cross Road. As we get going, the first thing to say is that the very first section isn't Charing Cross Road anyway, but 100 yards or so of a road called St Martin's Place. St Martin's Place, for instance, is the official street address of the National Portrait Gallery, which we're passing now. Each road in London has its own personality, and since we started doing these history videos of London streets, we've received many comments. A plethora. That means a lot to us. But as we travel up this one to our mystery destination, we're going to be quite sparing in our tour comments. There'll be less of here's something on the left and there's something on the right. We will leave that to some clever captioning. Charing Cross Road was developed in the late 1870s at the same time as Shaftesbury Avenue by the Metropolitan Board of Works under an Act of Parliament. It soon became one of the liveliest roads in London with nightclubs, theatres and cheap restaurants, but it was also a centre for crime. After the Second World War, Charing Cross Road became the site of London's greatest conglomeration of bookshops. And here we reach Cambridge Circus. This was previously known as 5 Dials, which was the number of its intersecting roads. The first Sex Pistols gig took place at St Martin's Art College on the 5th of November 1975, in front of fewer than 20 people. The student union organisers failed to appreciate the Pistols' performance as a defining point in rock history and pulled the plug after 5 numbers. Foyle's, London's best-known bookshop, moved to Charing Cross Road in 1929. Christina Foyle took over as owner of the shop in 1963 after her father died. and over the next 30 years foils became a byword for chaos. People were hired and fired on an erratic basis. There was a glut of staff with unusual classical names. When one customer asked where he could find Ulysses, he was told that he'd just gone out to lunch. After Christina Foyle's death in 1999, the shop was brought into the modern world. Coming up on the right is Centre Point. And thanks to lockdown we can breeze over the normally busy junction with Oxford Street. And although we've been travelling up the same street, we've reached our third road name.
Budge up.
Excuse me?
I'm going to be your guide to the highlights of Tottenham Court Road. That's a London branch of the Dutch Hema chain of shops over
I
there.
didn't ask for a guide to the highlights of Tottenham Court Road. Wait a minute. Are you one of those automatic YouTube voices that are all the rage now?
No, I'm human. All right?
Are you sure? Prove it.
I really am as cockney as they come. Born within the sound of bow bells. Apples and pears. Gord blimey me old mucker.
Anyway, over the top of the buildings here you can see the BT Tower, the post office tower that was, poking over the top of the roofs.
With a ladder and some glasses, you could see to Acne Marshes. If it wasn't for the houses in between.
Oh, shush. So way up the street here you can see the I can't remember what it's called.
Euston Tower. So are you going to tell them about heels?
No.
Broadcasting on 194 metres on a medium wave band and 95.8 in stereo VHF. You're listening to Capital Radio. Independent Radio News at 1, Neil Landau. So if we can just poke out from behind this bus, we'll be able to hopefully line up with a famous painting. There we go.
Can I get a go and explain this next section?
Yeah, go on then.
This is a work of art from 1745 and by William Hogarth. It's called March of the Guards to Finchley. And if we zoom out here, we can take a look at how things looked here in the 18th century. This was an area called Tottenham Court, hence the name of the road. The Adam and Eve tea rooms existed at least as early as 1718 on the site of the manor house at the northern end of Tottenham Court. In the 18th century it had a long room with an organ, bowling alleys and extensive gardens with arbours for tea drinking. It was famous for its quiet orchards of wild fruit trees, and its location beside the toll booth for the Hampstead Road Turnpike. The Adam and Eve tea rooms would, on a modern map, be located at the northwest corner of the junction of the Hampstead Road, Tottenham Court Road and the Euston Road. Later, Capital Radio's Euston Tower was situated on the spot. Okay, I was only employed to do Tottenham Court Road. I'm off.
We're continuing to travel along 1 London street, and we've reached the 4th name, Hampstead Road. Hampstead Road runs north from Tottenham Court Road's junction with the Euston Road. In former times this was a turnpike running through quite a rural area, and one of the farms along the road was Rhodes Farm. This was the farm whose fields later became Euston Station. Rhodes Farm was just north of the modern junction of Drummond Street, which is the brick lane of the north, famous for its curry houses. This whole area as we filmed was being completely transformed for HS2, the new high-speed line from London to the Midlands.
Didn't you say earlier that every street had its own personality? Well, I'm Hampstead Road.
What's going on? This is my video. I admit it, this is not an interesting section of this route. However, I'd just like it to be said.
He's got quite a boring voice. We're better.
I thought you'd gone. Okay, if you want this gig, let's hear your London pronunciations. Here's a list of underground stations. Read them out.
I can do that. Dagenham Heathway.
Yeah, that's an impressive start. You have a go.
Walthamstow Central.
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good.
Borough.
Bit too New York on that one.
Southwark.
Ooh, like the pronunciation there.
Marylebone.
Even we have trouble with that one.
Oakwood.
Oakwood, I'd say. Oakwood.
King's Cross St. Pancras.
Oh, well done. Impressive.
Northwick Park.
Oh, yeah.
Plastow.
Impressing the socks off me now.
Mornington Crescent.
Amazing. And so we reach our 5th name, CAMDEN High Street. Alas, the traffic was a bit heavy when the 24 bus traversed CAMDEN High Street, so we're going up in the air. Courtesy of Google Earth Studio. We just passed Chalk Farm Underground Station, but there used to be a chalk farm. If you go back to the year 1829, this map shows Chalcots along what later became England's Lane. This was the original chalk farm, a place for shooting, archery and all sorts of leisure pursuits. We're a bit late with the bus bell there, but we've had a change of road. Road number 7. Haverstock Hill. Eagle-eyed viewers will no doubt notice that we're now climbing up into Hampstead. And nothing to do with this video, but Hampstead and Highgate used to be the only ways north out of London. For horses and carts it was a long old haul up each of the hills. And so 2 bypasses were built. The Edgware Road, which bypassed Highgate, and Finchley Road, which bypassed Hampstead.
Hello everyone, I'm Monty Modlin. One of the nicest things about my job is that I'm always meeting different people from all walks of life. And you're Sylvia the barmaid.
That's it.
What about the LEB?
Choice is very varied. Bought the freezer just for Christmas, but very good.
Well, you're a happy barmaid,
I'm a
Sylvia.
happy barmaid.
What, this is your local, is it,
Yes.
love? Do you go to the LEB?
They're the professionals, aren't they?
What have you got at electric?
Washing machine, fridge freezer, electric iron, all from the LEB.
Right now, LEB are offering Londoners the Creeder 1000 washing machine for £229.50, the Jackson Top-Line ceramic cooker, £424.50, and the Creeder Corvette water heater, just £33, all at your LEB.
Maybe it's because we're all Londoners that we choose LEB.
The video's been speeded up, hence we're rather rapidly heading up into Hampstead Village. As mentioned before though, it's at the top of a hill, And while horses and carts don't come up here these days, buses still do, and we've had to get off the bus that we were on because only single-deckers can make it this far up the hill. It's quite difficult to take a video out the front window of a single-decker bus. Inverforth House is the bus stop for the former home of Lord Leverhulme. It's to the left here. Leverhulme built his fortune on soapsuds, that's where the Lever Brothers brand comes from. But he was full of ideas. One of them was the McFisheries chain of shops. This was set up to sell fish from this model fishing community at Leverborough on the Isle of Harris in the Western Isles. But he died before his plan worked out. In 1904, Leverhulme purchased the Hill, an Edwardian mansion. He rebuilt it and made additions, including a wing on each side of the house, a ballroom and an art gallery. And it was his main home from 1919 onwards. After his death, the Hill was renamed Inverforth House. As we pass the famous Bull and Bush here on the right, we're about to enter the London Borough Barnet, which is our... what is this? Yeah, it's actually the only borough we've been in is CAMDEN since Tottenham Court Road, so this is another borough. And North End Road is our 12th name for the same road. By the way, while we're here, we should thank Graham Ross for this bus video. I used to live beside this bus stop, so I actually know the history of the houses across the road here. They might look really urban, but these houses on the right were built when this area was really rural. They date from the late 19th century, but Golders Green didn't start to develop until the first decade of the 20th century. This development was solely due to the arrival of the Hampstead Tube, later the Northern Line, in 1907.
Golders Green Station.
Golders Green went from completely rural to completely urban in the space of about 5 years. And as we reach Golders Green Station, a point of interest, in that we've followed the Northern Line, the Edgware branch, all the way from Trafalgar Square. We'll cross the Finchley Road, enter Golders Green Road, and eventually we'll see a bridge going over the top of us with the Northern Line going its own way.
Avenue.
So here's an apropos to nothing, as Danny Baker used to say. Bear with me. The British TV series Midsummer Murders was bought by a German network in its John Nettles days. But the name Midsummer Murders did not render well in German, therefore it was renamed to the still English language name Inspector Barnaby. There had earlier been a wildly popular British TV detective series, Inspector Morse, and this had been shown in Germany. When John Nettles retired from the main role and Neil Dudgeon took over, for the German series title to work, he had to continue to be called Inspector Barnaby. And so a very convoluted family connection had to be invented, even though the UK name, Midsummer Murders, didn't actually require a Barnaby in the main role. What the UK name did require was for there to be a murder in every episode for the title to work. This remains true, causing the midsummer crime rate to be roughly a murder a week, on ITV3 a murder a day. Other TV detectives have a sensible name, such as the aforementioned Inspector Morse. And while Oxford is still full of fictional murders, the flexible series title allowed for some deaths not to be homicide. One of the Morse episodes was called Last Master Woodstock. Spoiler alert, where the victim wasn't murdered but run over. And having got to the word Woodstock by a roundabout route, there was an old house in Golders Green called Woodstock. Nearby Woodstock Road, NW11, inherited this name. With a new Northern Line extension running towards Edgware in the early 20s, one station built beside the then brand new North Circular Road but in fields needed a name. With nearby streets bearing the name already, Woodstock was considered for the new station name, before second thoughts were had and the station got the generic name Brent after the nearby river. Either the then also new next door A41-A406 junction was named after the station, but also may be named after the river, but this junction became Brent Cross. Meanwhile, in 1965, the London Borough of Brent was established, and this didn't include a station called Brent. With the Brent Cross shopping centre opening in the mid-70s, London Transport dispensed with the confusing name and named the station after the shopping centre, which was named after the junction, which had been named after the station, which might have been called Woodstock if cooler naming ideas had prevailed. So there you go.
240 to Edgware.
We brought West End shopping to you. Come shopping the Brent Cross way. Choosing in comfort, whatever the weather, you'll see Brent Cross Centre and stay. The parking is easy right outside the door. There's buses and undergrounds too. Your favourite stores are now at Brent Cross Centre. We brought West End shopping to you.
The Brent Cross Shopping Centre, where the North Circular Road meets the Hendon Way.
Where the North Circular Road meets the Hendon Way is, like the other sections of that road in the area, built upon a floodplain. Once the building of the London suburbs had resumed after the First World War, building hit a barrier between Hendon and Finchley, the River Brent. The Brent at that time was a marshy waterway and liable to flooding. It was particularly unsuitable as a location for housing. So, for instance, Hendon Urban District Council used its floodplain as a dumping ground for things it didn't need in its burgeoning suburbs. Its isolation hospital went here, and the sewage works. Indeed, new housing leapt the marshland of the Brent. Golders Green stopped at the banks on one side, and urban Hendon resumed on the other side. Further north, Temple Fortune stopped at what is now Henless Corner, and Finchley resumed beyond. But this was a local opportunity for road building, and they didn't care so much about soggy conditions. A public works programme got to work in London, getting many ex-First World War soldiers back to work. Dating from the early 1920s were the Western Avenue, the Eastern Avenue, the Watford Way, the Hendon Way and more. The motor vehicle had truly arrived on the scene, and London suburbs were just getting congested. The valley of the River Brent offered a fine opportunity to hammer a route through the marshland, the North Circular Road. Well, that's us across the North Circular Road now, and we have arrived in Hendon, Northwest 4. Hurrah! Now, I love everything about Hendon. I love Hendonites, Hendonics, whatever the people who live there are called. But I think we need to get a bit of a move on in this journey. So let's speed things along.
40 to Edgware.
Just here is Mill Hill School, which was established by a committee of nonconformist ministers in 1807.
Mill Hill with 3 hammers.
Oh wait, don't turn left. We need to carry on in the straight direction. Alas, that's where the bus option finishes. We're in Mill Hill Village and we've got to walk now. No more buses. It does give us a chance to have a look around. There's some ducks. See that the Three Hammers is thriving. And they even have a psychic night. Actually, I think this next bit will be a bit boring, so let's get a move on and speed things up. Well, the evidence is there. Between you and me, I think we're reaching a T-junction. It's been a long walk. In fact, it's turned from winter to summer on the way. It's just been one long road. Lots of different names, but just one long road. And we've reached the T-junction, which marks the position of the Rising Sun pub in Mill Hill.
I enjoyed it.